So today we're going to cover iMIS 20 new features. Again, I'm Tina Hagland. I'm the iMIS Practice Manager here at InterDyn. We're going to cover 5 key features today. We're going to talk about the Communication Suite, which is the ability to email from iMIS. Now that it's a newer product. We did have the capability to do that previously, but now we have some additional features, bells and whistles, and there's actually 2 built-in products now that we have to choose from. We also have process automation, which is a way to show alerts to your staff that may be working in the staff site, or on your public-facing website you can show messages to your members or even non-members who are logged into your site. So maybe you're missing their cell phone number and that's something really important for you to capture. Or if you see, gosh, they attended last year's annual meeting but not this year's annual meeting, we could say, hey, the annual meeting's coming up. We notice you're not registered. Click here to register now. So we have alerts for process automation, and then we also have something called triggers and scheduled tasks, which means if something happens in the database, maybe when someone does something very specific, they purchase a product or they attend a particular event, you could send them an email, or you could update data in the database. That could be the trigger portion, or we could do a scheduled task, which could be a scheduled email. Maybe 7 days before every event, you send a reminder. Things like that. And then we also have a built-in managed duplicates. We have both a one-off duplicate manage process as well as a way to manage duplicates en masse. We now have built-in address verification, and that's on the staff site and on the public-facing website. And then we also have built-in member engagement. And the member engagement will allow you to look at your database and start to score your members. And you can do things such as look at how engaged they were last year versus this year. You could build IQA queries that say, hey, show me everyone who was really engaged last year but not so much this year, so that way you could potentially kind of watch to see who, what members are at risk. So that's kind of the 5 core pieces that we'll be looking at today. So we're going to go ahead and start with the Communication Suite. Again, there's 2 ways to do this. We can kind of do one-off emails from the profile, and that's both in the staff site and the member-facing site. We can do group emails. There is kind of a tattletale to say, so what happens if you want to know, gosh, I sent out emails, but I need to know who's actually getting them, and if you went to someone's record, you want to be able to see all the interactions or the emails that have been going out. So there's a place on the profile to take a look at that. The Communication Suite also has built-in templates, so we'll take a look at that. The templates will allow you to brand the emails to your specific organization, so you can add your logo, your colors, and things like that. And then just tuck away this piece. We're going to look at process automation a little bit later, but the Communication Suite templates that you create can be also used within process automation. And then we also have something called advanced email marketing. So one thing to understand is the Communication Suite comes with the software, and I'll say out of the box, there's no additional fee for that, but the advanced email marketing, it would be considered an additional module, and what that means is if you have advanced email marketing, when you actually send out the emails, it will track back to say what happened to the email. Did the particular individual click on it? Did they forward it? What were they looking at? It's that statistical information. So that's like, in addition to sending out the email, you get all of the information back as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to the Communication Suite. So today we're actually inside a demo environment, and I'm in what we consider the staff site. Looks like based on the attendees, most of you are using the staff site. I think the version looks like most of you are on about version 20 or so. So from the staff site, underneath marketing, so on the left navigation, so we have something called marketing, and then we have communication templates. So the communication templates are are what get used when somebody registers for an event, purchases a product. So one piece would be the order confirmation. So if someone registers for an event and they register for maybe your annual meeting, they go to the cart, they check out, and then automatically an email goes to their inbox. Of course, granted you have their email address, which typically that's pretty standard these days. An email will go to their inbox, and we recommend that you brand it with your logo and your colors, and then there's a message. So you do have the ability to control what that message looks like. So for today, we actually have different samples, right? You can start with maybe something out of the box, and you'll notice they have a little lock, and the lock means that it's a system item, but on that the system item, you actually have the ability to click on Save As. So that's what I did. I actually clicked Save As, and then I saved that my webinar order confirmation over here, and you'll notice there's no longer a lockbox. So that means I can change this. So maybe I say order confirmation from InterDyn BMI, and then in here we can say, thank you for your order. Maybe I want to change this up a little bit. I'm just going to change a few things so you can kind of see. But you'll notice, of course, this is branded towards iMIS, but you'll want to note that in this design you'll be able to change this, so you could put your own logo, update these social media icons. The pieces you don't want to change would be like the order details block, because that actually plugs in to say, thank you, Tina, for registering for this event, and it gives you all of the event information kind of wrapped into this little, what I would consider a merge field. It's kind of like similar to word merge. The other really cool feature is it says Dear Party First Name. Similar to word merge, I have a list, and these are all the fields that are available to me. So maybe instead of my first name, it kind of depends on what the sources that you're using. So the source would be like an IQA query. So if you wanted more fields available, we would add that to the underlying query. So if I wanted to say first name and last name, so I could do insert first name and then insert last name. Dear Tina Haglund, thank you for your order. One other thing I want to point out here is we're in design mode. You can always switch over to HTML. So if you're more comfortable with that, you can go straight to the code as well. All right, so I'm going to switch over, and we're going to go ahead and save our changes. So it's kind of as easy as that, right? So now we have our custom, I say custom, but we really just took a copy of it. It's going to be our order confirmation for our organization, right? So then pretend we updated the logo, we changed the maybe some of the URLs for the Facebook and Twitter accounts, so now we're ready to go. So when someone actually registers for an event or purchases a product now, they'll receive this webinar order confirmation. There's one other quick piece I do want to just tell you about, because we need to tell the system what confirmation we want to use, right? So under Settings, Commerce, and General, it's this path here that says what confirmation we should use, right? So right now it thinks it's still using kind of the old confirmation, but if I wanted it to use the webinar, the one I just created, we'll go ahead and find it. So I'm just kind of looking at this path to help guide me. So under Common, and then Communications, and then Templates, and then Templates again. So now we'll say use our webinar order confirmation. So at any point in time, if you decide, hey, I want to change it up a bit, maybe during annual conference, you really want to kind of make that email include some more information, you could certainly do that. Although the same order confirmation is used for products and events, any kind of financial transaction, so kind of tuck that piece away. Of course, I want to remind you that this session's being recorded, so we're going to go over a lot of material, but you could also find this on our YouTube channel, and you could download it. Well, actually, with YouTube, you can just watch the this session over and over to kind of pick out these pieces that you want, especially like locations like this. So that's kind of helpful. So there's the communication suite, and we talked about the templates. The other thing I want to circle back around on, it would be the advanced email marketing. So that guy is going to be under marketing as well. So we have something called Advanced Email Plus. So the communication suite, what I just showed you, kind of comes with the software out of the box, but we also have this other piece called Advanced Email Plus. In the past, customers might have used Informs or even a product from Van Dam Associates. So there were a few different kind of mass communication pieces of software that were available, but now we have, you know, this communication suite out of the box, or we have now this advanced email. So this would be our statistical dashboard to say how many emails were sent, how many are delivered, how many were opened, and so forth, right? So this is an additional module, so just kind of tuck that away. I'm sorry my screen isn't as gorgeous as I would like it to look. I'm in a demo environment, so I tend not to send out too many emails. I don't want to send things out that I should not, otherwise it starts confusion. All right, so now the next thing we're going to focus on, we're going to go ahead and move on to process automation. So process automation is a newer feature in iMIS 20. So under Rise, we have something called Process Automation Plus. So there's two pieces that go to this particular area. We have something called process automation that comes out of the box. So there are some built-in alerts and tasks that you just get with the software, and you can turn them on or off based on what your requirements are. But if you want to be able to create new tasks or modify existing tasks, you actually need to be licensed for the Plus part of it, where you see Process Automation Plus, right? So that's a licensed module. So what that means is now we can start to create some of our own. So one example I want to show is we have something called a missing mobile phone alert. So this would be an alert. So if someone logged in and we were missing their mobile phone, we could say, hey, can you provide us your mobile phone? We'd really like that. So I'm going to show you the alert here pretty quick. So the first thing we have to define is the data source, and the data source is an underlying IQA query. So in this query, it's going to go find records, and it will actually have a filter to say, show me records where the mobile phone is missing. And then if it meets that condition, which it actually has that same IQA query again, it will produce an alert. And that alert actually says, your mobile phone's missing, and then we can show an image if we choose to, and then we can add this particular alert to what we call an alert set. So on the staff site, if we have a series of alerts that we want to show in a particular area, we could say show the staff account page alerts. Other than having to put 10 different alerts on a page, we could just say just show this group of alerts. So to show you this particular alert in action, I'm going to jump over to my public-facing website. So I'm logged into the website as Brian, and if I go down on the left side, here's the alert. It actually says mobile phone is missing. So that was a message we had actually written out. And you can kind of tell that this is accurate because if I come to Brian's record, the mobile phone is missing. So now if I update this, and I refresh the page, the message is gone. Okay, so think about alerts and how you would want to use them. On the public-facing side, it's really kind of cool because if you have a new member sign up, you could walk them through a process. Maybe as soon as someone signs up, you can say, oh, please add your picture. We'd really like to get to know you. Oh, here, now do this, now do this, now do this, right? You could kind of help walk them through. We call it the member journey. And the other thing is on the staff site, under events in the dashboard, we have some built-in alerts, which is kind of neat because this could be alerts you could show your staff that says, hey, the 4th annual Medicare-related resources workshop's coming up and our registration is really low. We should probably do something about that. Maybe we need to talk to marketing, whatever it is we need to do. And this alert just says, hey, this workshop's going to start on August 24th, just a heads up. So those are some of the alerts. The other thing that I want to talk about is we also have something called scheduled tasks, which could be a trigger, or we can say, hey, run this every night at like 10 o'clock, right? So this particular one is a trigger. So this says whenever somebody registers for an event, I do want to just, as a side note, say we do have an order confirmation that goes out, right? This just says, hey, we're going to send a secondary event confirmation, or maybe it makes more sense if this is the event confirmation that goes out 7 days before the event. Yeah, the biggest thing is to think about, gosh, how do you want to use this, right? So this one just says, hey, when someone registers for an event, right, we have our source again is kind of the query to say what event is it, what's maybe the date range, what conditions met, and then we have actions that say, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to send a communication. And that communication is going to be an event confirmation, right? So that's actually going to look at the event confirmation template that we set up. And then in here, we have a log, which is kind of our tattletale to say, hey, when was the last time that this was sent out? When did this run? And then you could kind of see, when they're running and who's actually receiving it. You could also go to the profile page and look at the interactions, and it would be like your tattletale to say these are all the emails that have been generated for this particular individual. All right, so that's the process automation tool. So we're going to go ahead and talk about managing duplicates. So in the past, we have always had a third-party tool maybe called Duplicate Merge Manager, or there's other third parties called iMerge. Well, now we actually have something built in. So we can resolve duplicates on the profile, or we can manage duplicates en masse. And whenever you see the plus or the little green circle that says plus, plus means it's an additional module. Typically, there's always a base module that will let you do a certain, process, but once you get into managing duplicates like en masse, or the advanced email marketing where you get the statistical data, or even the process automation so you can start to modify and create new, you run into that plus, which means additional licensing. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back into the staff site, and we're going to look at managing duplicates. So under community, and we find contacts, I'm going to go ahead and just look for my last name. You'll notice I've been a little busy in here, so I'm going to go ahead and find one of my records. And then in the staff site, you'll notice, so here's my record. We have a button called Resolve Duplicates, and this is where we can do one-off duplicates, right? We can merge them together. So this will show the record that I'm on, and then I have the ability to go find a record that I think is a duplicate. So as you're kind of working your way through the day and you're like, gosh, I think these two are duplicates, you could use this tool to get them merged together to keep your database nice and clean. And this just comes with the software, right? There's no additional fee. So here I'll say, let me see all the other records that say Tina Hagland, and I know, oh, these two are probably ones that need to be addressed, right? So once we find this record, and they'll say, oh, there's not a whole lot on here, so I'm pretty confident this one needs to go away. It will show you all your user-defined information as well, right? So then you can make your decision to say, okay, yep, for sure, I want to keep this one, and then everything else that's kind of on this record, activities, event registrations, products that were purchased, things like that, will be merged over. So once we click merge, it'll merge the records together. If you look at this and you say, oh gosh, these aren't the same records, if you click not duplicates, if you stumble across these two records again and you try to merge them, it will say, last time you said they weren't duplicates. So it will actually maybe save you a bit of time and give you a heads up to say, yeah, someone's already looked at this. But let's go ahead and merge it. And it says, okay, once you do this, you're kind of done. There's no coming back from this. So you go ahead and say, okay. And you'll kind of notice up here we can tell that the software is working through the duplicate. We'll give it a second here. And it says, okay, this has been merged, right? So it tells you the one that it kept and the one that it merged. So now if I went to go find that record again, the 23151, 23151, oh goodness, let me actually, oh, maybe I have two records now. Oh, maybe I lied about that. This is the one that I kept, and it was the other one down below that was gone away. I think it was the 23154. So then that one is now gone, right? They were merged into each other. So that is how you merge records one-off, and that just comes with the software, right? So just as a side note, I do want to kind of point out this piece here. So this is really the foundation of this particular area is an IQA query, and any IQA query can have this email feature, and this email feature works directly with the communication suite. So if I have a chunk of records that I decide, gosh, I want to email these guys, it will open up this kind of our templated area, right? Kind of what you're familiar with. We looked at this earlier, but then we can say, well, what do we want it to look like? So you could come back here and say, oh, we want to use this guy here, right? Then it will load it up and select the template we want, and then we could email everyone. So if you can build an IQA query, you could send an email off fairly easily. All right, so let's kind of sneak back over to the Manage Duplicates Plus. So this is a way we can actually manage all of our duplicates in mass. So when we look at this screen, the software is trying to be helpful to say, oh my gosh, look at all these possible duplicates we have. So you can go through these one by one, right? It will produce this list, and you can go through them one by one and say, okay, is it a duplicate or is it not a duplicate? The other way we looked at it is we kind of needed to know who the duplicates were. We were kind of finding them as we went. Now this is the system trying to proactively tell us who it thinks are duplicates. The other thing to kind of tuck away is ASI has a formula that it uses to figure out what duplicates, what it thinks are duplicates. You do have control over that formula. So as you start to use the software and you're like, there's, a handful of fields that I feel like are maybe a better match than the way that, the software is figuring it out, we could definitely help you get that updated or tell you the location. So just kind of tuck that piece away. All right, so so right now we've kind of talked about three main areas. We talked about the communication suite, process automation, and managed duplicates. So we have two more items to go through, but I did want to kind of stop, and I had a quick, I think, two questions we wanted to just poll everyone with, and I think that Michael will go ahead and do that for me.
Yep, you guys should be seeing it on your screen right now. It should be coming up. And the question is, what version of iMIS are you on? 10.6, 15, or 20? And we'll give about 30 seconds or so for everyone just to get their vote in. Okay. So it looks like on that one, everyone is on 20 so far. Okay, and then the second question should be coming up here is, are you interested in upgrading? Yes, please contact me, or no, not at this time. And we'll give just another 30 seconds for everyone to cast their vote on this one. Okay, and it looks like everyone had voted no, not at this time.
All right, good. So we'll go ahead and keep going. So the next piece we're going to look at is the built-in address verification. So in the past, for older versions, um, a lot of customers were using something called iMIS, and that was a third-party software that, every couple of months you'd actually have to go through and update your address database for, from the post office that said, okay, here's all the new houses, these are the things that have changed, and all that. And all that, business, it was kind of time consuming, but now with the staff site and the public-facing website, we actually have this all built in, and it just comes with the software. We actually utilize a web service called Melissa Data, and the addresses are cleansed, right, whenever you do an update or an address is added. So I'll just go ahead and add a record so you can kind of see what that looks like. So we'll add a new record. So we'll just say, Jill Jones. We're just going to add the minimal amount of information here, right? So we've added a quick record for Jill, and then what it's going to do is shift us over to Jill's profile. And then on Jill's profile, we're going to go down to address. And you'll notice Google is so helpful, right? It tries to fill in address information based off of what I've typed in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and accept some of this, and so that way you don't have to watch me do so much data entry. So watch what happens. As soon as I click Save and Close, it says, all right, Jill, it's kind of sort of right, but not really. So it will actually rework the way that the post office wants it. So it's actually, the post office says that InterDyn's corporate office address is really supposed to be 2277 Highway 36 West. So we'll go ahead and say, yep, use this address. If it truly is wrong, you can say, nope, keep the address that I put in, right? But at least it gives everyone a chance to decide, is this the right address or not, right? So that's now a built-in feature. So that's will keep your addresses nice and clean. So then the other piece, while I'm here, I'm actually going to do, whoops, looks like we have a question.
Yeah, do you want to cover that now?
Sure.
Okay, so it was, if we were using both staff site and the desktop version, do we still have to do the AccuMail every few months?
So the answer is, if staff is only using the staff site for address changes and updates, then you don't have to. But if you're still using the desktop to do changes, right, then you're still going to want to use AccuMail, because if the address was entered and it wasn't done in a place where that Melissa Data web service can catch it to kind of fix it, you may still have some bad addresses out there. So on the safe side, I would say, yep, you should probably still do that, just based off of who I know, this customer, so Chi. Yep, I would say you're still going to want to do that to keep your addresses nice and clean, because I do think you have a number of staff who are still using that desktop client.
Okay, and we had a quick follow-up. Thanks. Is there a way to turn off the AccuMail update notification?
There is. So you do have the option. So there's two things, right? If you are no longer updating AccuMail in the desktop, it will give you a message that says, hey, AccuMail is either it's not found or it's not up to date. If you decide, gosh, we're done with AccuMail, we're not going to use it any longer, we can actually have ASI remove AccuMail from your licensing, because you're technically paying for this third-party product. So if you decide, gosh, we don't need it anymore, you'll actually get a savings, right? You won't be paying for that any longer, and then the side effect would be you would no longer get that message either. So hopefully that answered the questions. Perfect. Good. I see. Thanks. Awesome. All right. So while I'm on the profile page for Jill, I wanted to point out quickly the recent interactions. So I keep kind of referencing, I'm like, oh yeah, you can see the recent interactions or the emails that kind of have happened. Whatever's gone out right through, whether someone purchased something or staff was emailing, you actually will be able to see everything through the recent interactions. Of course, I'm on Jill's record, so we don't see a whole lot of information, but I'm actually going to jump over to John Tan, and I use the on behalf of feature. So this little headset allows me to kind of jump over and work on behalf of a particular person. So, so John Tan is just another member in my database, but he's fairly active. So he's a good record for me to show you some information on. So once we have John, I'll click on his profile, and then under history, and then you'll see here's all the order confirmations that have gone out for John, and then we can get some additional detail to say, yep, it was queued and it was delivered, and if I actually click on the order confirmation, we'll get more detail to say, oh, well, what exactly was this for? Oh, well, he paid for his membership dues. All right, so I think we have one final piece that we're going to take a look at today, and that is member engagement. And just so you know, this area is constantly being grown out and changed. I think there's a few of you on this session today who are hosted at ASI, and what that means is you automatically get these updates that come with the software, right? Because you're hosted, when a new version comes out, ASI will give you notification to say, okay, well, you're going to get upgraded and it's going to be a week from now, and then you constantly are getting the new, features, right? So what you're seeing on my screen right now is what's currently available. So this is version 20.2 quarter 4. If you have as you kind of see newer versions come out, this will look a little bit different, but right now on the profile we have something called engagement metrics, and we use a combination of IQA and ASI, the makers of the software, is actually building out scripts that help you kind of score your database. So they'll say for someone who sits on a committee, they'll get a score of, give them, everything kind of gets accumulated with a number. So if someone sits on the board of directors, maybe they get a 2. And if they sit on a volunteer committee, maybe they get, whatever, a 1. But maybe if they sit on this committee, they get a 3, right? So you kind of have the ability to rank. And then if they've attended the annual meeting, maybe they get another 5, so you kind of have this baseline to say, this is how engaged membership is, but if you decide, oh, the annual meeting shouldn't get a 5, that's too high, you can also modify those scores to kind of suit what your organization's needs are. But then on the profile, we have this metrics area, and it will kind of score. So now in this particular version, we're kind of looking to activities to say, okay, well, how engaged were they? And we're like, okay, we had 3 gifts in the last 12 months, and we're on the committee. So this kind of says, oh, well, John was pretty engaged. Now, in the newer versions that are coming out, they do actually have a donut that they show. And on the donut, it might say this person is scored at a 40. And then you could see the next person, you could say, oh, they're a 35. So then you can kind of separate out your database to say who are my top 5%, who's in the middle, and who's in the low, so you can kind of get folks into groups so you can help move them up and cultivate them, right? Maybe the ones who are in the lower, you want to get to the middle, and the middle, to move to higher. And you can also do last year versus this year, so you can kind of see, gosh, who's at risk. We want to make sure we don't lose any of our members. How can we tell? Because right now it might be really hard to even see, oh my gosh, how can we tell if if somebody's kind of fallen off the rails and we don't want to lose them, maybe we have the TLC list where we're making phone calls and asking what else can we do, or are you finding value, things like that. I mean, that's really the idea behind the engagement metrics. So currently right now, this is based off of an IQA query, and that IQA query determines we're looking at how many gifts, how many committees, but as you see newer versions come out, we're going to add more and more pieces for ranking. So it's a great tool, and then it can be kind of modified to suit your organization. All right, so let's. So we just talked about member engagement, right? We took a look at the profile, and then there are some built-in scripts, and we're utilizing IQA. And this is a very kind of hot topic right now, especially with ASI. So more and more functionality is being built out in that particular area. So I do want to thank you for attending. And our iMIS webinars are typically held every month on the third Thursday from 11 to 12. So I do want to see if anyone has any questions. And the other thing I wanted to just say as a side note is I think we have the next iMIS webinar set up, and we're going to focus on the staff site and the member-facing or the public-facing website. But then after that, we're going to do a reporting series where we're going to show, we're going to have the next 4 webinars will be based off of kind of reporting. We're going to do something with business objects, IQA, and then we're going to focus on a couple different areas with SQL reporting. So with that being said, I'll kind of turn it back over to maybe to Michael to wrap up, and I just want to see if anyone has any questions.
There's nothing in the queue right now, but maybe we'll give another 30 seconds or so if anyone's mulling over any questions right now. Okay, well, if any later questions do come up, you can feel free to reach out to Tina or your account executive or myself at InterDyn BMI. If there is no additional questions, I would just like to thank you all for attending today's presentation. And on behalf of everyone at InterDyn BMI, we just want to thank you and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.